Hey, tennis fans, you are watching Matchpoint Canada, Canada's premier tennis podcast. I'm Ben Lewis, joined alongside friend of the show, Vansh Vermani of the Tennis One app. Vansh, we are 1 week through our first major of the season, the Happy Slam, and let's dive into it. Australian Open action. I want to start on the men's field, and what better place to start than at the top of the draw with the world number one, Carlos Alcaraz, and you look at his road so far, not really many hiccups. 0 sets lost, and he's comfortably through to the quarterfinals. How would you evaluate his play so far in terms of how sharp he's kind of looked coming out of the gates here in 2026 at the first major?
Yeah, Ben. I mean, I think he's had some tests along the way. Like in the second round, in the first set, he was pushed quite a bit. About an 80-minute set. I think that was a good test for him to just kind of come through, no sets dropped. He's come through in all the tie breaks, played some clutch tennis when he's needed to. Certainly the matchup against Tommy Paul is always an exciting one for tennis fans. And, we saw Tommy push Carlos all the way to 6-all in the tie break, and, the last 2 sets were quite respectable as well. But I feel like Alcaraz is just, going through the gears. And each match, especially the fourth round, I felt like his forehand was really humming. And that was the first time you kind of saw it all come together and, raising his level little by little. And so he looks in pretty good physical shape right now. And, he's got that new service motion that he's worked on in the off season. And we've certainly seen that help him in some times when he's needed it. And I feel like, yeah, he's looked about as good as he should be by the quarters.
Yeah, certainly about as good as he has to look so far, and he's going to have this huge edge, I think against Alex de Minaur, who he leads the head-to-head 5-5. And look, as great as ADM is playing in Australia, having the backing of the home crowd, maximizing his skill set, I just don't think he has the tools and weaponry to challenge a Carlitos.
Yeah, I certainly think, he's like always, obviously he plays some of his best tennis in Australia. The last couple of rounds, he's looked very sharp. It's going to be a night session, it's going to be an electrifying atmosphere where he's going to have some of the crowd support. But regarding the X's and O's, I do feel like, his best shot is to try and win the first set somehow and, take advantage of a little bit of nerves that Carlos might be feeling in a night session after playing several matches in the day, and capitalize on that. I mean, obviously, it's going to be really hard for him to, dictate offensively and try to win 3 sets. But we'll see. He's certainly beefed up his game the last couple of years. He's got some momentum with winning a match or 2 at the ATP finals, and then constantly running into these guys the last couple of years. And we'll see if he can maybe grab a set where he can push Carlos tight. But it's certainly a tall order. And obviously his usual style of, shrinking the court is going to make for a fascinating one against Carlos, who's one of the fastest on tour. And he's obviously got tremendous amount of firepower. And the gap is always pretty big between them when it comes to the pace off the ground and the easy offense able to generate. So that's going to be fun to see how much Carlos is going to have to, get because obviously he's never been past the quarters, but this obviously is a better opportunity for him than playing as Zverev or Djokovic.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. 2 of the best movers in the sport, as maybe straightforward or more straightforward of a road that Carlitos had. Jannik Sinner has not really had a straightforward road to get to this second week. Certainly not surprising that we see him back in the quarterfinals. Mike and I both picked him to win this tournament, and really, we circle back to that third round match. The heat rule comes into effect when he's in trouble against American Elliot Spizzirri. For me, different set of circumstances, but it was a bit reminiscent. And I thought back to Wimbledon last year. He was in a world of trouble against Grigor Dimitrov when the veteran tore his pectoral muscle. And here he kind of escapes danger again. And I feel like when Jannik escapes danger early in the tournament or midway through a tournament, he just gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah, no, you're right. The 2 majors that he won last year, obviously you have the Wimbledon situation with Grigor, and then also at the Australian Open, struggling quite heavily against Runa in the third and fourth sets. Yes. And then, the net court breaks at the start of the fourth. He gets a few extra 30 minutes to kind of gather himself. Obviously, these kind of things you can't really predict. It's a helpful slice of luck in this situation, no doubt about it. he was in big trouble, and he had full body cramps at 3-1 in the third set, and so bit of a reprieve for him, and you only expect him to kind of get better from here, um weather the storms. I mean, this is probably just one more day that it's going to be really, really hot, and that is the first day of the quarterfinals. So I think from this point on, almost everything else is going to be at night or indoors, and yeah, I think Sinner is going to be looking good from here.
Yeah, those conditions are most suitable to him. I look at the players, and we're always seeking players who can challenge the top two, and not really discussing the 24-time winner in Novak Djokovic, but the other crop of players who are still upcoming or developing their game. And I always pencil in Ben Shelton as one who is on the verge and getting closer and closer. And it really feels like he's getting a little bit closer to these two each and every year, each and every tournament. He gets another opportunity in a quarterfinal here against Yannick. And look, he was pretty clinical against Casper Ruud, especially with the net play, how aggressive he was coming forward, and so sound with his volleys that I think this is definitely a test for Yannick without a doubt.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, obviously the head-to-head is quite lopsided now, and Sinner has won 19 sets in a row, and he's won 8 matches. But I do feel like this tournament, I've been very impressed by Ben. He's had a very tough road, coming through Humbert, and then Bashko in the third round, and then even Casper Ruud, who was looking really good in the first 3 rounds. And to see Ben, just be so clinical on the forehand, really strong net play, as you say, just awesome serving. It's gonna be interesting against Sinner, because Sinner is obviously able to rush him so much with the pace off the ground, and Ben is not really able to get many opportunities to come forward and impose his attacking style. But it's going to be interesting to see, can he hang with Sinner from the back of the court, and is the movement and defense and the return good enough to stay with Sinner for 3 out of 5 sets. I have no doubt that he can push Yannick for a set or two for about 90 minutes to 2 hours. The question is just, can he do it consistently enough over and over again for 4 or 5 hours, because that's how good the top two are right now.
Yeah, that's very true. Look, we were pretty high on our Canadian Felix Auger-Aliassime coming into this tournament. He cramps in his first match and goes out, unfortunately. That paved a road for Lerner Tien. I had Tien and Medvedev circled as a possible fourth round match for sure. Maybe the best I've ever seen Lerner Tien play. He was fantastic in that round of 16. He has so many tools from the back of the court, just rock solid. He has variety. His skill set is very high. And, Sasha Zverev, obviously, finalist last year, consistently a top 5 player, normally around top 3. I think he could be very vulnerable in this quarterfinal, even if this is sort of a first-time experience for the young American.
Yeah, I was tremendously impressed by Lerner, and in the fourth round, and really ever since he escaped that 2-1 in a breakdown against Marcos Giron. He's just the confidence is so high for him. Winning next gen finals. He's got Michael Chang in his corner. He's beefed up the serve, which is obviously one of the areas that needed a lot of improvement, and it still has ways to go, which is quite scary for the rest of the field. And then he's obviously got tremendous way to spread the court. The variation, as you say, he just knows what shot to play at the right time. He's able to lull his opponents in difficult positions on the court, and he never gets tired. His legs are so strong, and he's just so cool, calm, and composed. He's got a tremendous amount of skill set. He's kind of gone under the radar at times last year with the other teenagers, sir. But he's really coming into his own, and I think it's going to be a very difficult matchup for Zverev. I think he will fare better than Medvedev did, just because I feel like his record against lefties has been so good the last 1 year. He's only lost 1 out of 38 matches, and his two-handed backhand and then his serve is going to carry him a long way, and I think make it quite competitive. But the question with Zverev is always in the really tight moments when it's 5-all in the fourth set, is he going to go after his forehand, or is he just going to kind of play very passively and let Lerner, because Lerner is one of the lefties who beat him last year in Acapulco. Granted, it wasn't the best of Zverev maybe, and then they played again on clay at Roland Garros, but completely different conditions. So sure. This one to me is the most open out of the 4 quarterfinals.
Yeah, good point. Novak Djokovic, Look, to me, he dodged a landmine a little bit in the round of 16, and I had circled a potential matchup with Jakub Mensik, who beat him in Miami last year. Obviously, best of five, a different occasion. Obviously, Melbourne, a different occasion. But 38-year-old Novak at this stage, avoiding extra court time, being very seemingly physically fresh going into the second week for a big matchup with Lorenzo Musetti. I mean, this is kind of a dream start to the tournament for the 24-time Slam champion to have had such little wear and tear.
Yeah, I think that's the most crucial part for Djokovic at this stage of his career. How to conserve energy in the first week so that when he does go into these semifinals and finals, or latter stages, second week against Carlos and Yannick, does he have enough left in the tank? Because we saw at Wimbledon and U.S. Open, he was clearly very physically compromised and going into those matches. And so for him to get around where he 2 or 3 extra days where he can just rest and recover and train, I think that's quite big for him, because you don't really worry. Sometimes you kind of worry about a walkover, like, oh, are they going to lose rhythm and suddenly are they going to be a little flat in the next match? But you don't worry about that with Djokovic, just because he has so much tremendous experience and he's shown that he can play really well from the get-go after not playing much tennis for like 2 months straight. So I think this, if he's going to get number 25, I think this is his best shot right here in Melbourne. Where he's won 10 times, and it's the start of the season, so you'd expect his body to be in really good condition and more fresh than it would be later on in the year.
Yeah, no, good point. Lorenzo Musetti, big time win over Taylor Fritz. I thought he played a really, really rock solid match. It's kind of stunning to me that he hasn't won a title since 2022, but we see him in the back end of these tournaments so often. He's been on the cusp of big wins before, and now he's done quarterfinals or better at all 4 slams. Someone who's turned into an all-court player when maybe initially we thought he was more of a clay court specialist. I think back to their match that they played at the tail end of 2025 in Athens, I believe, where Musetti certainly had his chances, pushed Novak to the brink. And I feel like, again, he's going to be prepared to put up a fight that I wouldn't sleep on Musetti as an underdog in this match.
Yeah, absolutely. His hard court improvements have been very noticeable the last several months, really, and he's really become an all-court player. The serve has improved tremendously. The forehand, he's much more willing to take charge in rallies now than he used to be. And he's obviously got the great defense and the variety that he can always fall back on. And, he does have one win against Djokovic. Granted, it was on clay in 2023 in Monte Carlo, but he's played him many times tight on clay. And the Athens match should give him a lot of confidence, in, pushing Djokovic to 7-5 in the third. And one of the best matches really last year. So,
yeah,
I think this is going to be a tight one. I think Djokovic probably pulls through, just given his experience and just the mental edge he probably has over Lorenzo at this point. But I would certainly not be surprised if Lorenzo can push it all the way and maybe even take it to 5. It's he's looking in really good shape, and he did have a physical match against Thomas Mahach, and he did look a little bit shaky in his first round, but I was very impressed with his second round, and the quarterfinal was just a tremendous performance from him all round technically.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. Let's shift course over to the women's field and the women's side. I picked her to win this tournament at the start of it. World number 1, Aryna Sabalenka, who gets through, I would say, quite dominant first week. She beats our Canadian Victoria Mboko 6-1, 7-6 to book her spot in the quarterfinals. 13 consecutive major quarterfinals now for Sabalenka. And this is the stat everybody's talking about. 20-0 in her last 20 tie breaks is really unprecedented dominance. And you look how strong she is on the serving side. I feel like her confidence right now is sky high. That I'm pretty confident in my pick right now. I don't really see someone stopping her path right now to the finals if she keeps playing this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's got that perfect mix right now of being really clutch on the tie breaks and in tight moments, and also dominating, in the actual sets. And if she does gets pulled back and maybe goes for a little too much, or opponents break her back, you better break her before the tie break, because right now win 20 in a row. I mean, obviously she had Djokovic at one point did it 19, but his style of playing the tie breaks is a lot different. It's just don't give a single unforced error, basically, and just rock solid and not necessarily passive, but just just cut the errors down to absolute zero. And
I call it lockdown mode.
Absolutely, yeah. And for Sabalenka, it's she doesn't play that way. So for her to be 20-0 is just tremendous, really. you would think at some point that streak would get broken. I mean, against Potapova, she was down 3-6 and 6-7, and she came back all the way and won. So she's had some close calls, but time and time again, she keeps proving that's why she's the number one in the really big moments.
Yeah, and look, let's give a lot of credit to the way Mboko has started 2026. I mean, obviously 2025, as we know, was a breakout year, particularly latter half and winning Montreal and getting another title. But to final in Adelaide to start the year, get through a few tough matches, reach her first ever round of 16. And I thought she showed herself incredibly well in that match, her first time playing the world number one. It felt like a match that could have been over fast. It was 6-1, 4-1. She was down. She was not out, and she saved 4 match points and brought it to a tiebreak. What do you think about her ceiling? I mean, it feels like top 10 is certainly inevitable, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but certainly looks like a player that could be ready to contend for majors in the next year or two.
Yeah, her progress has been absolutely awesome to watch. I mean, this time last year, she was outside the top 300. Obviously, then she has, she wins a string of ITFs. She makes that run in Miami in the main draw where she makes, pushes Paula Badosa. And then, then she obviously has the Canada breakthrough. But I've been really impressed with her since, just coming through so many tough 3-set matches, winning Hong Kong and finals in Adelaide, like you said, and even getting through the match against Clara Towson, not starting it out in straight sets and then being down a break in the third and then coming back to win. Like it's, and then pushing Sabalenka all the way to the tiebreak after when she could have easily lost 1-3 or 1-4. I think there's so much to like about her mentality, her attitude, how complete her game is already, and she's already at 13 in the live rankings. So top 10 for me is like no brainer. It's going to happen at some point for the next 1-2 months, maybe even. But yeah, I definitely think she's in that next tier right now of players that could win a slam, like in the next couple of years.
Yeah. 4 American women are still standing here in the quarterfinals. It's a high number for sure. All great players. Amanda Anisimova, Jessica Pegula takes out the defending champion Madison Keys with a great performance. Coco Gauff obviously still in the mix. And then we have another teenager, 18-year-old Eva Jovic, who just ripped Putintseva off the court in her previous match. Out of those 4 American women, who would you tab as maybe having the best opportunity to go sleep or go deep or contend for this title?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very impressed with Jessica Pegula the first 4 rounds, and just how efficient she's been really so far, and how really consistent she's been in the last, I believe, 6 tournaments. 5 of them she's made the semifinals or better, and she's just doing a really good job of problem solving. I have seen improvements in her serve, for instance. And, this next matchup against Amanda is going to be very fascinating because Amanda's had a lot of success against a lot of players on the tour, but doesn't have a win against Jessica yet. And obviously they haven't met since, Amanda's made 2 major finals and been the player she is now. But that matchup for me is a huge one to circle. I also think Coco, the potential, just because I think she matches up the best against Sabalenka. I would pick her to answer your question only because it's 6 head-to-head, and she's been able to get in Arena's head in different ways with her speed and her anticipation and just getting so many balls back and frustrating Arena. And we've seen it happen in 2 major finals now and in the big stages. And so if she can get through Svitolina, you have that matchup, arguably one of the best matchups right now, maybe the best in women's tennis, Sabalenka versus Gauff.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's one of our premier rivalries on the women's tour. I would say the most underrated rivalry on the women's tour. It doesn't get as much hoopla as it should, and it's coming up. Iga Swiatek, Elena Rybakina. These two always have incredibly intense, incredibly close matchups. I believe Iga leads the head-to-head 6-5 right now. Look, surface-wise, conditions-wise, you favor Rybakina. Iga Swiatek, obviously the world number 2 and arguably a little bit more pedigree than Alina, obviously has a shot to win this too. Who have you been more impressed by through week 1 out of those 2 players?
Yeah, I mean, I think Iga's form has looked pretty good. Now, she hasn't been fully all the way tested. I mean, it would have been fun to see her match up against Osaka. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But she was tested against Kalinskaya and she came through. But they were kind of a weird uneven match. But Rybakina, I think, coming through 1-3 against Elise Mertens, I was quite impressed by just, the rhythm on the serve right now. And she's not making many errors off the ground. And The first strike tennis seems to be there. The movement looks quite sharp. If I compare to her form to about a year ago, it's almost night and day. Obviously, she does have the most recent win against Iga in the WTA finals, where she just kind of tore through the whole field, really. That is quite an impressive run from her at the back end of last year. So I do wonder, because last year they did play a lot, and it felt like the tighter the matches were, the more Iga was able to kind of weather the storm of the big hitting and use her counterpunching to good effect. But then also Rybakina has won many matches easily. So it's kind of, they either play really close matches and Iga comes out on top, or when they do play the more one-sided matches, it's Rybakina who's able to kind of blow Iga off the court. So wonder which is going to go this time.
Yeah, I think with Rybakina, it's like, as you said, there's an early onslaught that you're going to see in that first set, the first strike tennis, the serve. Can you resist through those first 5-6 games and get yourself in the match and extend these points, and then suddenly you have a chance? But Rybakina on her day, as we know, has the ability to hit anybody off the court. So that'll be a compelling one. Vansh, always compelling to have you on the podcast. We're excited for the second and final week of the Australian Open. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what happens in this second week, and hopefully we'll get some outstanding tennis.
Yeah, we'll see how it all unfolds. Guys, thanks for watching, listening to Matchpoint Canada. Hit the subscribe button below. We will talk to you next time. Thank you guys so much for watching us at Matchpoint Canada. If you like our work, follow along, hit the subscribe button below.